Great. So let's just take this opportunity to introduce ourselves in this small group, because it's so daunting being in a group of 70 odd people. And I really hope that the bandwidth allows you to hear me okay. So I'm Alison, and I'm living on the west coast of Scotland, long-time Finnemore fan, and somehow got roped into organising this. So lovely to see you all. Would anyone else like to introduce themselves?
Hi.
Eleanor, you go.
Hi, I'm Eleanor. I am in Oxfordshire, and hello, here I am. Hello to you all.
I think we could probably unmute, as it's such a nice small group, so that's great. How about Lizzie? Love to hear where you're based.
Yep. Hi, I'm Lizzie. I normally live on a narrowboat, but I'm up in Edinburgh this weekend. And we're actually going to go to Long Buckby in like 2 weeks' time. We're kind of heading up that way.
So did you realise, like, as soon as you heard the Long Buckby bit, like, aha, yes?
No, I was really confused when he was like, oh, Long Buckby will tell you something. And I'm like, surely everyone knows Long Buckby. It's great. It's like the last place you can walk to a train station from the canal for like 2 weeks. And then I was like, oh, no, not everyone knows Long Buckby, right?
Yeah, when he said that, I Wikipedia'd it, but...
There's no pavement on the road from Long Buckby Locks to the train station. It's like taking your life in your hands, but it is a train station.
Excellent. Let's give everyone a chance to introduce themselves before we get too stuck into the details. How about Robert?
Hello, so I'm Robert. I'm in sunny Watford at the moment, and I got sucked into cabin pressure originally, and then I just kind of jumped in the more fan. So there we go.
It happens to all of us.
There's worse states, aren't there? There are worse conditions.
There are worse fates indeed. Yeah.
Thank you. Rachel?
Hi, I'm zooming in from the Midwest in the United States. It's nice to meet you all.
Is it night time? What time is it over there?
No, it is 6:22 a.m.
Oh, wow.
Oh, good grief.
Wow.
Dedication.
We salute you.
Yes.
Fantastic. So this particular group is all about the obscure literary and historical references within the fantastic series we've just listened to. And have you had a chance to look at the Padlet, what people have already been popping on there? There's 2 columns, one for literary and one for historical. And so it would be fantastic if there's anything else we could add. I'm going to get it on my iPad at the same time. I just feel like there's probably scores of references that haven't been mentioned yet, because, you know, nothing that John writes is wasted. Everything has significance, like a crossword clue, isn't it? So, you know,
There's one that's not on there, I don't.
Great, go for it.
Okay. The big borzoi in Woof 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 is a Saki reference. There's like Saki was this writer of comic short stories at the beginning of the 20th century. I think likely to be a very big influence on John Finnemore. It's the same sort of like Since You Ask Me, Shaggy Dog stories.
It's actually on the column for literary references. Someone's put a link to the Saki story with the big borzoi, and someone's put a picture of the big borzoi just for fun as well.
In that case, yes, I'm definitely missing things on the Padlet. I can't quite see how to look at all the things.
Yeah, maybe take
a while to refresh. Yes,
refresh and scroll.
My laptop is not very friendly.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
yeah. And also somebody picked up the reference to the old poem The Owl and the Nightingale, because of, you know, how Patrick made such a point of saying he wasn't going to be sitting there like an owl, not like an owl.
Okay.
And so it's really interesting to follow that link to the old poem.
Owl and Nightingale.
Yeah.
Yes. And someone's put the rose garden in, because if you work out what you can just about hear before the music starts on episode 5, when M.R. James is telling the story, and then it's very similar but not to the ghost story that Newt then tells.
Oh, the courthouse story.
Yes.
Ah.
Yes. And I think John tweeted that he'd made so many sort of references or used so many ideas from M.R. James that he thought he ought to give the old boy a credit.
Yeah, I liked that bit.
I like
M.R. James.
Fancy hanging basket hanger.
Yep. That can only hold one. With the thick row. Yes.
But I guess it's the sort of thing you kind of tell children to kind of sugarcoat the real history, don't you? Kind of make up a textual explanation so they're old enough to know.
Definitely. Yeah.
And it seems like the perfect way to pay tribute to Montgomery James, because at least according to the Wikipedia article that I guess it was Allison very helpfully added that into, because I had not heard of this person before, but when I looked at that, it talked about how he was known for reading the ghost stories on Christmas. It was part of the Christmas celebrations. He'd read a story to his friends. So it fits perfectly with the events that are happening around the story and the going back to another Christmas a long time ago.
Yeah, that was really nice. I liked seeing all the different Christmases, and I think that was a Victorian thing more generally, like Dickens' Christmas Carol. Like the idea of spooky things happening at Christmas was a big cultural influence.
Yes.
What about the middle Christmas, the one that is not the modern one or the Victorian one? Were there any particular, like, I'm blanking now, but were there any particular like historical things in that were of their time?
What, the contemporary Christmas, the Zoom one?
Not the one where Walter had his cracker on the side plate because Deborah wanted to pull a cracker with him, but he was still he was still pretending not to be blind.
Yeah.
So Vanessa goes, "Oh, it's on your side plate, dear." I don't think I remember any of them.
No, I think that one was just a character one rather than any particular historical details.
I mean, the whole thing about the idle women was fascinating. I mean, it was something new.
Yeah.
I knew about the land army and the forces, but this is a whole different part of the effort that I wasn't aware of. So that was very interesting about the canals.
Yeah.
They were really mean because they didn't get extra rations. Like the land army girls got extra food.
Okay.
The inland waterways women didn't. Which shows that whoever decided this has never tried to lock up Birmingham. It's like because Birmingham's up on this little plateau, so it's not that locky in Birmingham, but there's 21 locks. Whichever way you come, there's 21 sodding locks up to Birmingham, and they're all narrow. So if you're working a butty and a main, which they would because they were powered, not horse-drawn, you have to do all the locks for the main and all the locks for the butty while also pulling the butty up yourself because you can't connect it to your main boat with your engine.
Right. Wow.
Though they probably had fewer saris tied around their props. You get a lot of stuff tied around your prop in Birmingham.
I can imagine things on it now. All all the time. See, I was half convinced that the horse was going to be called Bridge and she'd get kicked by the horse. When she said she got hit by Bridge, I was like, when that started, I was like, I wondered if the horse was going to be called Bridge and she can get kicked by the horse. But it's like, oh no, it's the wrong year. But it was like,
yeah, I wondered if she was going to be leading the horse and walk backwards into the bridge.
Oh, okay.
Because the bridges are mostly arched, so they're quite low on the towpath side.
Yeah, that's true.
But no, she just went. Yeah.
Was not looking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there anything else that you had to go away and look up to Google? Because I, definitely Googled Monty James and the idol, the women working on narrowboats and all that sort of stuff. Was there anything else that?
Well, there was the whole kind of coded kind of thing that was interesting about the poem codes. Obviously, that's on the links as well. But that was because I knew about it, because the longest day, there's the bit in the film about the poem, the winds or something. So, but I didn't realize it was so widespread. And obviously, it's a good point that if you use one that everyone knows, is that if you can work out Lambeth Walk or whatever, then it's going to be easily cracked. Whereas if it's some random nonsense verse, then it's and obviously that Frenchman survived the war and came to see him and say thank you. So that was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, weirdly, I'd been looking it up for a totally unrelated geocaching solving reason. So when that started coming on, I was like, and obviously I couldn't say anything because then you couldn't hear the thing. So I listened to it with my husband. So he just had me doing this until the end of the episode when I was like, poem codes, look at the Wikipedia entry that's open.
Awesome.
That's amazing. Well, if you've got anything else to add on to the bits that people have put on the columns, you could add comments with extra info because I'm sure you got loads more insight about the narrowboat life. It was amazing how somebody picked up that Hockets was actually a thing. I couldn't believe that.
It sounds like a real thing. Just not, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just reading, someone's put an essay on about the medical examiner's misunderstanding of Newt, which is really interesting. About how he didn't get
interesting.
to go to the fight.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was so interesting. I mean,
because I'm aware that was there's a fair bit of that in the Second World War, in terms of very much making sure that somebody was able to sexually perform before they were cleared for service.
Really?
But I didn't know anything about that happening in the First World War. Well, I have no idea what happened in the First World War.
No.
That's actually what I was asking about. I asked that question, and it because I didn't know how it might have transpired that there was a misunderstanding of Newt and his sexuality. And when I tried to find out more, I couldn't find much that seemed to help. So I was wondering if people had information that I wasn't aware of about how that might have happened.
Yeah.
No, that's definitely one that I'm going to run and find out at some point, because I don't know what sort of screening they did for beyond. Okay, you can stand up and hold a gun. Great, you're enlisted.
Yeah.
I think we're going to be going back quite soon. So is there anything that you'd like to sort of feed back to the main group? Or have I got a volunteer from amongst you to just feed back from our discussion? Anyone feel like, passing some nuggets on to the main group from what we've been talking over here? Go on, Lizzie.
Yeah.
Can do.
Lizzie, I think it would be wonderful if you're willing to share with people some of your insights about what it's like to live on a narrowboat. I think that people would just love to hear that.
Definitely.
I did.
interesting.
doesn't have to be long.
Awesome.
I feel like you're thinking. Pondering on that one.
Preparing.
I mean, that's good. That's great. Thank you very much, everyone. And it's been really nice to chat with you in a small group. And
Yeah.
when you're ready, we're going to go back to the big old group and
Cool.
hear what other people have discussed. And so, yeah, it'd be lovely to see any extra info on the Padlet. I'm going to keep that live, you know, indefinitely. So you can always go back to it and add things as time goes on.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Alison.
Let's go back then, shall we? I think you just click leave room and it takes you back to the main room. Okay.
Of have some people come back from the other rooms. It came about because of the COVID, because they couldn't do proper programs.
Yeah, I know the format was out of necessity, but I wonder, you know, what was the impetus for this story and this family? Like, what was like?
Okay.
I mean, some of it was like the characters, the number of cast he had to work with, and everything. But
excuse me, I just see that the literary and historic references people have just come back into the main room. Did something go wrong there?
It's just that I thought I saw on the WhatsApp come back to the main room.
No, oh, not to you, sorry. It was just to oh, I'm really sorry. That was for one person who was stuck in the room on her own. So do you want to go back in again?
How much longer have we got, Fiona?
For another quarter of an hour until 5 to 12.
You're kidding. Okay, that's fine. And is it okay to talk about sort of questions and in this breakout?
Yeah, but there's now 18 of us in here, so it'd be really brilliant if you went back to.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, we will. Okay, that's fine. We'll pop back. Hey, team, on the references. Let's go back into our breakout. Okay.
Sorry, guys.
Can I ask a question? What I couldn't work out.
That's really funny. There was definitely a message on my team WhatsApp saying, come back to the main room.
Oh.
Anyway, it's really good because there's questions that we could actually sort of come up with that we might get a chance to put to the man himself. So if you've got ideas for questions, we could, you know, put them down.
Do you think that Susanna of Midnight and Noon is called Susanna in homage to Susanna Pierce, who does the music?
Yeah.
Or just because Susanna rhymes with piano?
And Joanna.
Probably both.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I think he's used the Susanna piano rhyme in like previous series. Like there was the one where they did like the credits in rhyme, and I think
that's right, yeah.
Susanna on the piano. So yeah, I bet that is like for Susanna Pierce.
Yeah.
I mean, the wonderful thing is kind of how he seems to like cover so many kind of parts of the human condition, but just part of a family. Because I mean, I think Deborah is possibly a bit kinky with the cigarette reference, and and Vanessa is possibly on the autistic spectrum. I was wondering maybe with the quiz and possibly, or she just doesn't like bad question masters, but you never know.
I wouldn't be surprised. She like, I don't want to kind of armchair diagnose a fictional character, but she definitely reminds me of my wife, who is like the same sort of like very autistic and indomitable, full steam ahead personality.
There's good things. Like Walter, it's like he's just got the disability. He's just part of the family. It's nothing. It's not made a big fuss of. It's just kind of like. And I mean, I still haven't quite worked out what's happening with Toby, whether it's a girl or a boy child. But
I think Toby's a girl, or if it's stated, which I'm not sure it is, but I think
they definitely
I think they did
Toby is referred to as she.
Yeah. Oh, that's yeah.
And so yeah, you had you got in the modern day generation like Toby as the daughter, and then Oswald as the dog.
Yeah.
And then,
so
and then
switch.
the Victorian generation, you've got
Oswald is the
Oswald's own Nightingale, and then Toby the dog.
I thought of another literary reference which we haven't touched on yet in this conversation, and that is the book that Patrick Nightingale, you know, the father of Gally and Newt, he's asked what he would take, and he chooses, of all things, the Tale of Mrs. Tiggywinkle, right, which is the Beatrix Potter book.
Yeah.
And somebody on the Padlet, I think, posed the question, why was that his favorite? Yeah, and it does seem really odd because nothing else that we've learned about him up to that point would have made me think of that he would, you know, find that sort of charming fantasy story, that would be his favorite book. But it is, and I'm sure it is, because I don't think he would have made that up. So I thought that was, you know, a really interesting moment and something kind of touching about it in a way. He comes across, at least at first, as this really rigid, uncooperative person, like sometimes in a funny way and sometimes in a really frustrating way. But that moment is sort of sweet, as well as being incredibly frustrating for the interviewer, because he's like, finally some information, tell me why. And he says, because it's my favorite, and that's all he's going to give him.
Yeah, I feel like not all the snapshots have punchlines, but that one's definitely the punchline for that segment.
That would be.
And yeah, I wonder if we do have the information to know why. I don't think we do have the information to know why from the other bits that we see of him, but
would be a good question.
That would be an interesting one to ask John.
Agreed. Yeah. There's a column in the Padlet now for questions for John, so I could put that on if you want. Why Mrs. Tiggywinkle?
It would certainly be an interesting one to think about. I'm not sure if it has to have an answer. Right?
No.
Like in order, you know, but
it could just be a nice, funny thing about him that would be unexpected.
But knowing John, it's probably got some meaning. He doesn't just tend to like layer upon layer.
There's got to be a reason behind everything.
Did anyone else spot the fruit?
Yeah.
Sorry, go on, Robert.
It's interesting because Mrs. Tiggywinkle wasn't published until 1905. So he wouldn't have had any reason to read it to Gally or Newt.
Oh.
Might have read it to Vanessa. But... Yeah, not one that he would come across just like as a father.
No.
Yeah.
But then I guess to a modern audience, like there aren't very many like cutesy Victorian books of the same kind that we would instantly recognise.
It does have that kind of recognition effect, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I suppose another historical thing we haven't really done is kind of the called Cold War Germany, where he meets Vanessa. Hilly. Because obviously he's stationed there after World War II. He's doing his national service, so.
I did love his line about like how well, I didn't want to, but they did rather insist. I'm not sure why they wanted me here, but
yes, a lot of people have been trying to be fit. I have to disagree on that point. What he said, yeah.
No, my father Simon Goldfarb is not disappointed that Germany lost the war.
Yes. That part I sort of wondered about actually this because I guess when was that set? 1950?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a Jewish haberdasher in West Germany in 1950.
They're a bit of trailblazers coming back that early after the war, aren't they? Then really.
Yeah. They chose to stay or to come back or
managed to hide. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they managed to escape somehow.
A lot of backstory there that is just, you know.
Because Hiller is absolutely like old enough to have had wartime experience of one sort or another.
That's true. Yeah, she's the ideal, isn't she? So
Yeah. Unless she went off to England or somewhere, but even so.
I think that I've got a feeling that there isn't much for us to sort of uncover. It's sort of just for our imaginations, really.
That's the thing. It is all there. It is all there. Just yeah.
We I've got a request from Fiona on the main group for us to, when we go back, to bring our favourite historical or literary insight that we've identified during this. So I suppose the Narrowboats would be a good candidate, Lizzie, if you still got that in mind.
Yeah,
that would be amazing.
I mean, I think one comment on Twitter threw me because she said about Long Buckley. I googled Long Buckley and there was some kind of wireless transmitter, and I kind of went down the wormhole trying to work out if it was transmitting poem codes and things. It was like,
yeah, I did the same. Yeah.
Linked to Stanley Unwin as well with this gobbledygook, like what Jerry ends up, speaking in a kind of Unwinese after his stroke. The other thing, I've got a question. When Vanessa and Walter are having the little scene where she audio describes the Western movie for him, I was under the impression from the sound effects that they were on a boat at the time, because she talks about opening the hatch. Did anyone else pick that up?
I don't think so. I think that's just like the sort of hatch, like
yeah,
in all the houses that you've got between the kitchen and the living room.
Oh yeah,
like my grandparents have one of those.
Serving hatch. Yeah.
I definitely parsed it as that, because I don't think. What year was it?
1980-ish.
Yeah, I mean, you could get TVs on boats, but
oh yeah, I definitely
didn't really until
I watched the Royal Wedding on telly on a boat, the Diana Carlson. What's that, 85?
But I don't think if you were living on a boat you'd have bothered so much.
It's just that I seem to have some funny sound effects in the background, creaks and things like. Going.
I thought I heard the same thing. I don't know for sure if that's what it was, but that's what I thought I was hearing too.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
I'm not just on my own there.
It is also possible that I thought that the sound effects that were meant to sound like being on a boat were just us actually being on a boat.
That
makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we could add that to questions for John, like we're on a boat at that point.
Would that be all right? Let's do that then. Okay. Someone's asked, would there ever be a possibility for a live tour about the Wilcos?
Should try and get him to get release the Nightingale song as a Christmas #1.
Then
one of the difficulties, I imagine, although it would be fun, however they chose to do it if they did, but one of the challenges to surmount would be family members that are played by the same actor. How you can still do it. I mean, it's not impossible to do it, but that would be one of the challenges.
I'm sure I read somewhere that one of them actually had an argument with herself. She actually basically played both characters simultaneously while doing it in 2 recordings. So it's the wonder of radio, you can get away with these things.
That was amazing, wasn't it? Listen, I've got a tired brain that come over me. Could you just remind me the name of the chap who was blind?
Walter.
Thank you very much.
When did they invent Christmas crackers? Because they were sort of Victorian times. They can't be around a huge amount of time before.
Yeah,
it was Victorian times. There was a pharmacist that was like, how can I sell more gunpowder? Crackers.
Perfect.
Victorian pharmacists were special and weird.
Well, they used to sell
pets, didn't they?
You used to buy your petrol from the pharmacy at one point. And there was a big factory in Norwich, I think, that does crackers. I'm sure mustard and crackers is what Norwich is. One of the two things in Norwich is famous for, I think.
And I don't remember there being a bang sound effect for the Victorian cracker, so possibly it was like one of the kind of pre-bang ones.
Oh, that's the attention to detail that would be pretty impressive. Tom Smith of London. There we go.
Ah, yes.
So Albert and Samuel Small were a real thing. They were a real thing. There was a poster.
Wow, that would not be one of the ones that I would have guessed was a real thing.
This might be a coincidence, but apparently the hats were added by Tom Smith's son Walter Smith to crackers, so that might just be a coincidence of the names again. But there you go, Walter Smith added the hats to the crackers.
Now we know.
There's a lot of historical rabbit holes to fall down, isn't there?
There are.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was thinking about Toby, just as an aside. I mean, she could have been born, a boy, but she could have decided that she was actually a girl during her young years, and that's why they refer to her as her. Because it's like there's an asexual person, there's probably a bi character, there's obviously a gay character, and she could be the trans character in the...
I did wonder, because it's just the way like Walter's the disabled character, you've possibly got someone with autism, so it's just kind of like, but it's just part of a normal family. It's just the whole,
just
it's just there.
Coverage, isn't there?
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, like I want to say that I think if Toby was trans, it would have come up, but then on the other hand, why should it have come up? It could just be part of the background as is in his head. And,
I mean, may or may not be. It doesn't really matter. It's just that
exactly. It's just
a lot of representation. There's
And I bet he knows much more about like the side characters than came over in the thing.
Definitely.
Oh, there's one reference actually that we haven't discussed. He mentioned on Twitter that like the bit that discussed Newt and Galley's names was cut for space. But like there is a reason behind those two names. One of my friends wondered if they were Newton and Galileo.
Bound to be.
Definitely. I think,
yeah. But John didn't want to give away the reason in case he needed to use it in a future sketch or something, did he? So
that was it. Yeah.
Well, you never know. I mean, I don't know if the commissioning is based on the number of listens on BBC Sounds, but I've listened to all the episodes about 4 or 5 times. So this must be going to, BBC are going to be like on number of listens alone, going to be like, let's have more of this, just because everyone's listened to it multiple times. It'll be like,
I hope they get royalties for every listen, because
how to become the most listened to show. Just be really with lots of references, so everyone.
Oh, I didn't hear that properly.
Right. How to get the most listens? Just make a really obtuse show so that everyone has to keep listening to try and work out what they missed the first 3 times.
Yeah. It was quite funny watching the comments come in after the first episode, wasn't it? All the people sort of saying, "Oh, not so keen on this one. That's disappointing." And it's like a bit like that line, "Oh, look, Ross has gone mad. That's a shame."
I like Ross.